Hello and welcome to my first tutorial on using OneNote. In this tutorial I'll just go over the basics of OneNote and how it all works. So let me start with the latter on how it all works. It's important to understand how OneNote functions in case you get any issues in the future. Let me explain one slightly complicated thing with OneNote to start with before progressing on to exactly how it works. So first of all, OneNote comes in many forms. You can get it on your iPhone, a tablet device, on your computer, etc. Pretty much most electronic devices you can get OneNote. However, when it comes to using it on the PC, there's effectively three versions. If I just show you on my start menu here, I'm using Windows 10, but effectively you can do the same here in Windows 8. You can actually click on one of the letters and then in this case we want to click on O, and we see that I have OneNote here, but there's two versions of it. So this version I'm highlighting right now is the app, and this version is the full-featured program, and there's a difference between the two. I'll show you that in a second. But as I said earlier, there's a third version. I'll just fast forward to show you that third version now. So this is what the online version of OneNote looks like. This is what the app version of OneNote looks like. And now I'm clicking on the full-featured program. So it all, as you can tell, gets very confusing. So the best way to use OneNote if you're using a Windows PC is to use the full-featured program. However, if you are using an iPad or your iPhone, it's fine to use it there too, but you might not be able to use all the things that you can use in the full-featured program. That will come later though in another tutorial. So yes, there's the app, yes, there's the full-featured program. How can you tell the difference? Because they look very similar. Well, as you can tell here where my arrow is, yes, they look very much the same, perhaps slightly different. But I think the biggest difference would be this one says OneNote 2016. If I just show you back here. So that's OneNote 2016 and this one just says OneNote. If you access something, you're sharing something, and someone shares a notebook with you or vice versa, it will normally direct you to the web version. Again, that's fine, you can use that. But to avoid confusion, I would say just once it opens up in the web version, there's a taskbar at the top here. Click on the part where it says Edit in OneNote. Allow, and it should open up now in OneNote. Just a word of caution here, if you have the app installed, sometimes it sets the app as the default program. If you don't have the app installed, it should open it straight away in the full featured program. What I'm going to do is I'm going to speed through this video next without talking, just to show you how to set something as a default program in case you don't know already. In this chapter, I'm going to be explaining how OneNote connects to the cloud so you have a better understanding of how it functions in case something happens in the future. Otherwise, skip ahead to 6 minutes 15 seconds. OneNote effectively uses the cloud to store information, and it tries to do this in a notebook form. So what happens is, in America, there's some servers, and on those servers there's some hard drives. When you start using OneNote, it will send the information to America, save it on the hard drive, and come back to you. So you need to have the internet in order to make sure that your OneNote is updated. Sometimes you might think you're connected to the internet, you add some notes, you go to reopen your notebook on a different device, and the notes are not there. That's normally because when you were working on that note before, whether that was on your laptop say, when you go to open it on your phone, on your laptop it wasn't connected to the internet, you didn't realize that at the time, and it hasn't uploaded that information. So you can always go back to the device you last used OneNote, reopen it, make sure it syncs, make sure you're connected to the internet, and that should solve any issues there in case you might find the occasional time when there hasn't opened it, or it hasn't opened a notebook or something you've updated in one of your notes. So that's effectively how OneNote works. It's a cloud-based system. The advantage to that is that obviously, let's say your computer dies it doesn't matter. Just reinstall OneNote, log in, and hey presto, all your notes are re-downloaded from Microsoft and you're good to go. The other advantage is if you forget a device and you've got a friend who has one and you want to show them a particular note, you can sign into your OneNote account from their device and again show them your notes. So there's lots of ways to use OneNote, and effectively it's a great way of making sure you don't lose your notes because it'll always be saved in that server location in America. So that's effectively it on how it works. You can, however, work on OneNote while it's offline, as I was saying before, but like I said, although your notes will appear, they will only appear in that notebook on that computer. So if you want it to appear on your OneNote in all devices, you must make sure it's connected to the internet. Chapter 2, the basics of OneNote. I'm going to try and go through some basics now, and in order to understand those basics, it's important to understand the hierarchy of how it functions. So there's a hierarchy order in OneNote, and that comes in the form of notebooks, which is in this tab. I'll have my arrow over now. Then folders in your notebook, and then pages to the right hand side on this particular version in the folder. So you have your notebook, folder, pages. That's the main hierarchy. So let's start at the top and make a new notebook, and then I'll show you how to create a new section, and then I'll show you how to add a new page, and then I'll show you how to share that for the remainder of this tutorial. So let's start with a new notebook. So in the full featured program, up here where my arrow is right now, a list of your notebooks. If I click on this area, there's a section, or the very top part says add new notebook. If I click on this, you can put this new notebook in one of your accounts. I'll show you how to do or add accounts later, but for now I want this to be in my OneDrive account associated with my education email or account, and then I can place it in one of these folders. If I click on the browse and there's a little globe next to it, that means it's going to access it online. This is all the folders, or these are, sorry, all the folders associated in this account. So these are the folders I've made. If I want to make a new folder, let's call this folder test for demonstration purposes, and click create. Oh, sorry, we need to name it as well. Again, we'll just call this test 1 for the notebook. Go in the test folder. So now we're in this test folder. The notebook name is going to be test 1, and I'm going to click create. And a message has popped up. Your notebook has been created. Would you like to share it with other people? For this purpose, I'm going to say yes right now. So I'm going to say yes, I'm going to invite people. And straight away it takes you to the sharing section. Now in here, you can start typing the names of email addresses of people you might have associated with your account. Or you'll notice there's a little book here to the right. If you click on this book, then you can select, make sure you've got your global list selected from this particular account. And I can now search for people and groups, or, you know, DOE, Riverside, you know, admin, staff, etc. You've all done this before. And just click to, and off you go. And I can share it with them. But this is an important part. So at the end of the address book part here to the right, it's got can edit selected. If you go to drop down menu, you can have can view. So basically, as that says, you're allowing the people to either that you share it with to either edit or view the notebook. It's one or the other. So it depends on how you want to do that. And then obviously below here we have a message that you will type with the email that will be sent to them to say that this notebook's shared. There is more, but that's the basics of that, and I'll come back to how to get back to this part later. So here we go. Here's our new notebook, test 1. Here's our new folder in our notebook, or what I like to call a section. and here's our first page. So on our section, or our folder as I like to call it, it's called new section 1. If I type where the cursor is now, folder 1, and then I'll click anywhere on this blank space here, it will name the page folder 1, but doesn't name the folder or the section folder 1. It keeps it still as new section. So how do we change the name of this part? Okay, it's really simple. You can either double click and rename it that way. So we want to call this folder 1 and click off, or you can right click on it and select rename. So entirely up to you. I normally find double clicking a lot easier. Now going back to this, obviously this isn't a folder, this is a page. So I want to call this page 1. And that's it. You've basically started your first notebook. You've created your first folder or section, as OneNote likes to call it, and you've created your first page. You've also possibly shared it with others to start with too, and they can either view it or edit it. But I'm just going to show you some other basics here to using the page, and then finally how to get back to that share section if you haven't shared the notebook already. And that'll pretty much sum up the rest of this tutorial. So as you notice, unlike Word and other programs, you can click anywhere in this blank space and the cursor will go there. What essentially it does is it makes a text box. So as you start typing, that is its own separate box with the letters inside. The box is highlighted and above is a grey bar. As I move my cursor over the grey bar, 4 directional arrows appear. That means if I hold down the left click, I can move the box anywhere on the page and let go. Now if I create another box over here, I can do the same thing, and so on. Okay, it's entirely up to you. Don't feel though that you have to make a new box each time you want to add a line or a sentence. That's not the case. As you can tell, when I clicked on this box, I could click below and it adds a new sentence that way, or just like when using Word, just press enter and you can keep writing a list or a sentence. Okay, so it's entirely up to you how you want to do it. It gives you that free space to do that. However, if you want to start messing around with font and size and color, etc., and bullet points, the basics using OneNote, you'll need to go to the Home tab up here. So I'm just going to click on Home, and it brings up what they like to call a ribbon. And in this ribbon, it gives you some very basic stuff to do in your OneNote document. So the first thing is we've got this, which we should all be familiar with, that we've seen many times in word processors. You've got your font and whether it's bold, italic, and size, etc. Then you have your bullet points or numbering. You have your text color or highlighting. You have different styles of headings that you may create or is already defaulted to here. And then you have this interesting thing here. It's called tags. So what's good about tags is, let's say I'm making a particular note. As you can tell, each time I start a note, the ribbon disappears. But let's say I make a particular note. All right, and I'm thinking, this bunch of letters here, for some reason or another, is quite important to me. So I'm going to go to Home. I've just paused the video here because I forgot to mention how to keep the ribbon in its place and stop it disappearing every time you click somewhere else on the screen. I'm going to zoom in here and show you this little pin icon. If you click on that pin icon, it will stop the ribbon from disappearing. So back to the main part of the video. And it gives you in brackets a little shortcut using the keys if you do use it on a regular basis. And I can flag that as important. It puts a little icon next to it and it says that this particular point I've made here is an important point, something to remember. But as you can tell, there's many things I can do. And as I said just then, something to remember, well, you might not want to use the star as I suggested, you might want to use what it says here, remember for later. So if I were to choose like this, say for example, go to home and then say I want that for remember later, again it highlights the word and says that that is something of importance, something obviously I want to remember later. It's entirely up to you. You approach it how you want. So those are your two arrows to go up and down on that tag menu, but as you notice there's another arrow at the very bottom. What that does is it basically expands the menu to practically give you all the tags in one go, as opposed to going up and down all like this. As you become proficient in using OneNote, if there's a particular tag used on a regular basis, you'll probably end up just pressing Control-3 because you'll remember that, as opposed to going to this menu all the time. But again, that's something, you know, if you use on a regular basis. As you can see here, you can customize tags. Again, I'll do that in probably a separate tutorial later. And you can remove tags. There's also some important tags here. They give you as a default big tags that people use probably on a regular basis. So tags as to do, and then obviously that becomes a little checkbox. So if you've done it, or if you haven't done it, you can put that in there. You have find tags. Now this is really good. Essentially, let's say you've got a huge OneNote document and you want to find a particular thing. So those ones that you were trying to remember, or those things that you were trying to do, or something that the tasks, you know, to do tasks, or the things of importance, where it highlights them all down here on the right. And then you can say, well, I want a particular title, date, or note text. You can select those two. I want to find particular ones that are ones of importance. Well, here they are, and it highlights it for you over here on your document. Now obviously it's very easy. In my case, I've only just created 3 tags, but you know, over the progress of a year, you could have many things on this one page, and it's important that you want to try and find things quickly. So that's the basics there with those tags. You have Outlook tasks as well. So if you did use your Outlook calendar or to do things in Outlook, you can actually associate that with OneNote too, and vice versa. And then this one, which is email page. So you might not have shared a particular notebook with someone, but you want them to see a particular page that you've made. Well, there you go, self-explanatory. And then you've got meetings. So you can actually choose which meetings from your Outlook calendar that you want to associate this page with, and then start using that page with your meetings. So that covers the basics there. Now we know how to make a new notebook now. We know how to rename this folder or section, but how do you add a section? Well, that's pretty simple. There's a plus symbol right next to it. Just click on that and off you go. I'm going to call this folder 2. And there's my new folder now with new pages, and that's it. Pretty simple. But what if I want to create a series of folders? What if, okay, I've got this folder and I've got this folder, but I want to make a new kind of section, but in still part of the same OneNote book. So let's just say you wanted to make one particular OneNote book, and you wanted this particular section here to be on meetings. And then obviously, because there's several different types of meetings, you then might want them folders inside that to cover each meeting. So let's do that now. All we need to do is go over to one of the section tabs, or what I've just named folder tabs, right click on them, and then go to the bottom where it says new section group. Click, rename it. I'm going to call this meetings. Click off anywhere off the screen, and now I've got a folder, but now I've got another folder that's a group of folders. So it's in the same notebook, but instead of being one single folder, it's now a group of folders. If I click on this, it takes me to a new section, and then I can start naming new folders. Folder 1 again, if I wanted to, because it's not conflicting with the other one. It's in a new section. Folder 2, oops, I actually named the page there. Folder 2, and so on. Now, look what's happened. Once I've made these, do you notice that there's a little green back arrow here? If I click on this, it takes me back to the original section. So this is a really great feature. Rather than having multiple notebooks, you can have one notebook with different sections of folders inside to make things a little bit easier to use. I did it with our learning quads. So in here, this is my own personal stuff. I was just messing around here. These are empty. But over here are the sections of folders that we use in our learning quads. So you've got your collaboration space with group 1, group 2, etc. And then there's that green arrow, takes you back to this space. This space, if you are using your learning quads OneNote book, is your own personal space. This one isn't shared with anyone. That's why this part was made. So let's go back to the one I was at earlier. I had test 1 notebook. That's all pretty simple now. We now know how to make folders and we know how to make folder groups. But how do you make pages? Again, extremely easy. Just click on the part that says add page and you can just keep adding pages. Now there's 2 ways of titling your pages. Like I said, it puts the default blinker part there. I can't remember what it's called. You can name it and it will automatically name the page over here. Or you can right click and then just click rename and it takes you straight to that top left hand section where you normally write the title anyway, and off you go. So now these pages are named the top and the bottom ones anyway. So that's in terms of making notebooks. There is more, but that should give you a good head start. Now the final thing was I said about how to share it. We saw how to share at the beginning because it gave us a nice easy window that said, do you want to share with people? And was like, yeah, that'd be great. But what if you've made your notebook and then all of a sudden you think, you know what, I think I need to share this with someone. So if you want to do that, just simply click on File, go back down to Share, Share with people, and off you go. That's what I just showed you earlier. And that's it. It's as simple as that. Now, what I've showed you here is the main program of OneNote. There is the app, and I'll try and do a tutorial on that. It's kind of similar, just a different interface, and you can't do as much as you can on this. And then obviously there's the online version. Again, if you can, try to use this version, gives you more features. The app version should get you through most tasks, but if you're using a Windows PC, try to avoid using the app version, try and use the full program. So that sums up this tutorial. I will be making more tutorials on more advanced features of OneNote in the future. I hope this helps and you make a good start in using OneNote.